Hi there and welcome to another cosplay video tutorial on my channel. This time I'm making RUMI's golden jacket from the show K-pop Demon Hunters that just aired on Netflix. All you need to sew this yourself is about 1 meter of dark blue sequin fabric, the same amount from blue lining fabric, about 0.2 meters of elastic golden fabric, thick fabric to cover the gold one, the fabric you want to use as a backing for the patches, some iron-on interfacing, 3 to 5 mm foam and some thermoplastic leftovers, about 5 meters of golden chains, less than 5 meters of sequin ribbon, snap buttons, Dremel, heat gun, box cutter and precision knife, fabric glue, scissors, bobbins and fabric clips, sewing chalk, basic sewing equipment, and of course a sewing machine. I'll link you the products I used in the video description. This tutorial is based on the patterns you can find in my Etsy shop. Click the link in the description to have a look and also check out my Patreon where you get the patterns as rewards for cheaper. Okay, so let's get started. We'll start with the embroidery. As I was making this by hand, I printed out the patterns on interfacing using some paper as temporary backing for my laser printer. This worked out way better than expected, and after fixing the backing fabrics to each other, I could iron the interfacing to the insides. The pattern also can be drawn on if printing it on doesn't work for you. I then started stitching the pattern on, first the golden details and then the colored flower petals. I then removed the embroidery frame and removed the thicker part of the backing by cutting around the shape. Then I drew about 5 mm allowance around the shape and cut out the front fabric too. The seam allowance can be glued to the back of the patch using fabric glue like seen here. After that, it's time to close the open seam so the patch will get the rounded shape we need for the shoulder. With a fitting thread and sewing down seam allowance as well as the front of the patch, you can get an almost invisible seam. When done, repeat the steps with the other patch and then we move on to the base jacket. I advise you to first sew a mock-up to make any necessary adjustments to the pattern before cutting out all pieces from the sequin and lining fabrics. Since my sequin fabric is a thin mesh, I decided to temporarily glue it to the lining and sew them together. If yours is thicker, you could also sew the lining separately and add it later. Once all parts are glued, I start by sewing both sleeves long seams and then all seams shared between the front and back panels as seen here. Then I ironed all seams and pinned the sleeves into the armholes of the jacket. The shoulder seams should align, but the armpit holes are shifted by design to create less bulk here. Then I sewed them in, ironed it and checked the fit. As my lining is not separate, I used some double-sided iron-on interfacing to turn all open edges inwards around the jacket. Don't forget the sleeves here. Next I use golden sequin ribbon to glue it around the outer edge. And also on the sleeves again. As my fabric was rather thin, I decided to add some foam strips around the main jacket opening so that it will hold its structure with the chains later. I then added the remaining sequin ribbons on the sleeves, pinned on the previously made shoulder patches and sewed them down. And there we have the jacket base. Moving on to the details, I printed the jacket star file with my Bambu Lab printer, sanded, spray-filled and painted it golden. I then cut out the jacket closures from lining and sequin fabric, sewed them together and turned them around, securing the edges with stitches too. After that I added snap buttons to both of the straps and the jacket front pieces and glued the closure together in the center. I used some thermoplastic scraps like warbler leftovers to model a tiny flower to fit the star file I previously printed, painted it and glued it on. Using some super glue, I glued the star to the closure and the first jacket detail was done. I then cut out 22 of these arrows from 3 mm foam, beveled them slightly, heat sealed them and primed them with hex flags. I also modeled 2 more flowers that will be needed later. After that, I cut out the jacket straps from thicker fabric and wrapped it into golden elastic fabric using fabric glue. I painted all arrows and flowers and glued them in place on the straps according to the pattern. Once again I added snap buttons to the top and bottom of the straps to place it onto the jacket. Now comes the tricky part, adding the chains. I first roughly mapped out where to place them by pinning them on the jacket and chained them together in places where it made sense to me. After that you can add little golden rings to the jacket straps as indicated in the pattern. Most of the chains can now be connected to the rings. But the place where the front and back chains connect still need another attachment. I therefore added more snap buttons to both front and back panel of the jacket as seen here. In the end, I also added these tiny dangling chains in the front and back. To finish off my golden outfit, I sewed the pants again with sequin fabric panels. The instructions for the top and pants are linked in the description too. And now the jacket is all done. I'm really happy how this turned out. I can't wait for your creations with my patterns, so if you followed along, please tag me in your work in progress content, I'd love to see. Thanks for watching, bye bye!